up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be bookish content. For today's video, we're going to go over the 11 books I read in the month of January, which is a lot. I don't know how I'm reading so much lately, especially in one month. Oh my god. January was actually a pretty good month reading-wise. All of these books are either 4-star reads or 3-star reads, so I'll take it. And actually, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So the first book I read in the month of January was Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Rift by Jean Luen Yang with art by Gui Hiru. So if you've been on this channel for a while, y'all know I'm a big Avatar: The Last Airbender fan. It has been one of my favorites. It has been my favorite, all-time favorite show since I was like 12 years old. There are comics that continue afterwards. I read The Promise, which is the first one, and The Search, which is the second one, last year in the month of December, and those two are rereads. This is also a reread, so this is my first and only reread so far of 2024. And just to give you guys like a quick summary of what these comics are about, they take place post-war, and all these comics are basically exploring what post-war looks like in the Avatar universe. So The Promise was about how Zuko, who's now the new Fire Lord, is affected and how he's going to handle colonialism, how he's going to handle the Fire Nation colonies, because it's a mixed bag. Some Earth Kingdom citizens want the Fire Nation out, whereas other colonies, they're so old that the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom kind of learn to work together and to coexist. So even some Earth Kingdom citizens don't want the colonies to disperse, and Zuko has to explore that. I ended up giving that comic 3 out of 5 stars. I want to give you guys a quick summary just so you know where I stand on these, because a lot of people don't like these comics. I gave that comic 3 out of 5 stars just because I felt the characters jumping off the page, like the characters I love and adore, but at the same time they felt slightly different. Some things felt slightly out of character, and I just thought the story, the pacing was a little bit choppy. The second comic, The Search, is about the search for Zuko's mom. So if you haven't seen the show, Zuko's mom disappears, and one of the biggest mysteries is where did she go, because that was never answered in the TV show. The Search comic explains it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars just because 1, I like learning what happened to her. 2, we finally get to see more of Azula, because after Azula's defeat, she kind of fell off. We never got an explanation for what happened to her. And I liked seeing Azula's mental state in The Search and how she kind of flip-flopped and didn't know what to believe anymore. However, there was one plot point that to this day still makes me so angry at the mom. And I don't know if I'm mad at the writers or if I'm mad at the character or both. I just absolutely do not like it. I lost a lot of sympathy for his mom when you find this out. But I still enjoyed the comic overall, so 4 out of 5 stars. So now finally onto the third one, The Rift. In this comic, Aang and friends are trying to participate in an ancient air nomad festival. However, the sacred air nomad grounds is now overrun by a factory. So this whole comic explores like progress, progression, the future, and how to move forward. But it also discusses tradition and what's sacred and how to handle old cultures. If you have not seen the show, what The Last Airbender means is that Aang is quite literally the last of the air nomads. The air nomads were killed off in a genocide. And the comic explores Aang coming to terms with that people aren't celebrating his traditions anymore and they're not respecting that. And what is it now going to be like to be quite literally the only air nomad in this universe? I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars, shockingly, because I remember when I first read this was actually my least favorite of the 3 comics that were out at the time. I really like seeing Aang's conflicting feelings, because you can't blame the guy for wanting to keep his traditions, but also what else is he going to do when no one respects that, and how is he going to teach people to respect, but also at the same time, how is he going to move forward in this culture? His feelings felt very realistic, and I liked the compromise at the end. And I really like how the other characters were handled in this as well. I feel like as the comics progress, Jean Luen Yang is getting a better grasp of their characterization. However, the reason I gave this 4 out of 5 stars and not 5 out of 5 is just because I feel like these comics are told in 3 acts or 3 parts, and I felt like the third part was just a bit rushed. So then the next book I read was Outwitting the Gestapo by Lucy Aubrac. This is a memoir, and it is the true story of Lucy Aubrac, who worked for the French resistance during World War II. She was Christian and her husband was Jewish, and he also worked for the French resistance. And it's told within the time frame of 9 months because she decided to focus on the time during her pregnancy with her second child. I don't really have too much to say about this. I listened to this on audiobook at work, and admittedly, like, it's a great story of triumph, like all World War II stories are. But just admittedly, the way this is written, my attention was waning a bit. Like, some things I kind of just blew over. So like as a memoir, it's just okay. It didn't really stand out compared to other memoirs I've read. Like the writing is very just there. It's very basic. Nothing about it like screams originality, which sounds terrible because I don't mean to like demean her experience. Her experience is, again, one of triumph. Just as a piece of writing, it was alright, 3 out of 5 stars. So then I read Chainsaw Man Volume 6 by Tatsuki Fujimoto. So I watched the anime as it was airing, and I decided to read the manga from the beginning, December of last year. And this takes place in a world that is being run amok by devils. If you've been on this channel for a while, like I've read Tokyo Ghoul, Demon Slayer, I've watched Attack on Titan, apparently I have a thing for stories where non-human things are running amok. But devils are these creatures that thrive on fear. The more people fear them, the bigger they are. Our main character, Denji, is now the Chainsaw Man because a devil basically took over his heart. He has the Chainsaw Devil's heart. He joins the public service and now he has to fight off devils. And there's a lot more to it. Like the main thing right now is that a bunch of people, a bunch of devils and other people are trying to get his heart. I just don't want to spoil things. I thought what I saw from the anime and the first 5 volumes was kind of like flabbergasting, yet I wasn't particularly liking what I saw, but I also couldn't look away. Like I was seated every week for the anime and I binged the first 5 volumes of this manga. I don't want to call it a train wreck I can't look away from because it's not bad writing. It would be insulting to call it a train wreck, but it's definitely an event I have to keep staring at. Denji's a very interesting character. I love Power. She's my favorite. And I think Makima is one of the most interesting characters I've ever come across because she's very clearly manipulative, but she says the right things. And I'm seeing like on social media, she is so well written that even the audience is falling for it. So the first 5 volumes I was giving like a mix of like 3 stars, 3.5. This one I actually gave 4 stars because it's the infamous Reze arc. A lot of people love talking about Reze on Twitter. And I finally see why. I see why y'all love her so much. This arc definitely changes things, and now I actually do genuinely enjoy this series. So 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is a book I have been reading since 2022, and that is Arabian Nights, and I read the translation by Sir Richard F. Burton. So this book is a collection of folktales from the Middle East. It's told with the backdrop that there is a king who will marry a woman and basically kill her the next day. He comes across another woman, so the main woman in this, in order to save her life, she offers to tell him a bunch of stories throughout 1001 Nights. It's a very dense read, which is why it took me so long, because it would take me so long just to read one story, and I would pick it up here and there, but it was still very enjoyable. Like, I liked seeing the inspiration that I see in other forms of media today. And as with all short story collections, there were definitely some stories I liked better than others. Some were absolutely amazing. There were some stories that I thought were slogs, so I didn't read them. I would read a few pages and just go to SparkNotes to see what I was missing and then move on to the next story. But I thought it was really fun to see fairy tales outside of Western culture, and there is some beautiful imagery in these stories. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Then the next book I read is another comic book, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender Smoke and Shadow by Jean Luen Yang with art by Gurihiru. So in this comic, our focus is back on the Fire Nation royal family. Zuko brings his mother home with her new family. Kind of a spoiler for the search, but whatever. He brings them to the Fire Nation, and now there are these spirits, the Kemurikaji. The Kemurikaji spirits, they're dark spirits from ancient times. They are kidnapping children. Now the Fire Nation is mad at Zuko and he has to solve that problem. I was hoping I would love this because one of my favorite dynamics to explore in the Avatar universe is the Fire Nation royal family. Very, very fucked up family, but like if you know me, the more fucked up a fictional family is, the more I love reading about them. So I was hoping this would be like one of my favorite comics. However, it is one of my least favorite. I gave it only 3 out of 5 stars. I have incredibly mixed feelings about this story. I love the concept. I adore the concept. They actually had this idea, the creators of the show, they had this idea while making the show. They just couldn't fit it in the story. It's really cool. So again, I love the concept. However, it has the trope where a defeated villain comes back and is now the main villain of the story once again. And I've never liked that trope. I'm the type of person where if you defeat the villain, put them in jail, put them in a grave, what have you, and move on. Give us something new. But at the same time, I see why they used it because it is so in character for that specific character to do. But I I don't know, like, I just want them, I mean, if you've seen the show, I guess I could just spoil it because, like, you can figure out who I'm talking about, but at the same time, I'm not going to, and it's just, I want them to move on from this character, you know what I mean? As much as I love them, I want them to move on from this character as a villain. Not only because I'm on the redemption arc train, but, like, also because, again, I want something new. Like, why couldn't the Kamikaze just be someone else? Just be a new character to the Avatar universe. And not only that, but the character just doesn't feel as, like, calculated and Machiavellian as she did in the original show. And she explained what her goal was in the third part, and I thought it was like a fuck-ass goal. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. And, like, I know this character is capable of more, and that's all you can do with her, so I was really kind of upset about that. And again, this is an issue I have with all of this guy's comics, but his part 3 is incredibly rushed, and I thought the ending, like the last 2 pages, left so much to be desired. Really, the only things I liked about this was the fact that the Fire Nation royal family came back. I do like the art style. I feel like the art style fits the TV show very well. And I also love the portrayal of the Cain Instinct. I feel like Zuko and Azula are like the embodiment of it, and it's so funny. But yeah, in summary, my feelings toward this comic is that the ideas were there, like it had so much potential, but it just fell flat for me, so 3 out of 5 stars. The next 2 books I'm just going to talk about at the same time. They are Chainsaw Man Volume 7 and 8 by Tatsuki Fujimoto. I'm talking about them at the same time because I gave them the same rating. They're both 4 out of 5 stars. This is my favorite arc of the story so far. I don't know what it's called, but for those of you who've read it, it's the one where all the, you know, the hunters from around the world are coming together. I thought this arc had really cool twists, and again, is making the story better. Like, I went from being weirded out by this to absolutely loving the story. And I think I like Volume 8 better simply because of the art. The Hell sequence had some amazing panels, and I'm so suspicious of Makima. I have been suspicious of her since the moment she was introduced. Shit's going down. I need answers. I can't wait to get to Volume 9. Again, I gave these 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read what I would consider my favorite read so far of the year, and that is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This is essentially about a boy who goes on a journey through the desert to find his life's purpose. I understand this is a classic, like a modern day classic, and I definitely see why. I thought this book was such a beautiful story and one of the best journeys I've been on in literature for a very long time. I really love the theme of finding one's purpose, especially because I feel like I need that right now. I am going through a quarter life crisis. I'm on episode like 22 of this quarter life crisis. I just made an appointment to get my ears pierced. I'm 26 and don't have my ears pierced. I'm getting them pierced so I can get them stretched, so I can get gauges. That's where I'm at right now, and I'm looking to get a haircut. So I really needed a book to teach me about life's purposes. I like the way it was told too. Like, the author kept it simple. He didn't make it more complicated than it needed to be. And not everything worked out perfectly for our main character. He came across some bumps in the road. He came across some crossroads, which is what happens in real life. So by making it so simple and having those things in the book, it made it more realistic than I was expecting it to be going into the book. I love the atmosphere. It felt like a fairy tale. Actually, it felt like a fairy tale from the Arabian Nights. So I thought it was a kind of perfect timing that I finished Arabian Nights before picking this up. And the way that the story is told and how it concludes, I like how the author stresses that sometimes it is more about the journey than the destination. I feel like a lot of us have heard that phrase before, especially when it comes to stuff like, you know, road trips. Lord of the Rings is actually a perfect example when it comes to literature for that. I thought the author handled that very well, and something about this book is just very warm and comforting and welcoming. Like the author's trying to tell all of us, like, find your life's purpose and you will be happy no matter what it is. Some people have a grandiose purpose, some people will have a simple one. Always find it, and the universe will help you find that. This book was amazing and so much better than what I was expecting. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book I listened to on audiobook is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which came out years ago and was all the rage years ago, and I'm finally getting to it. This is about a girl named Kath who is starting college. She has high anxiety. She is an introvert, so she's not really ready for this new experience. But she is also absolutely obsessed with the Harry Potter knockoff, what the fuck is it called, Simon Snow, and she writes fan fiction for it, and she is currently writing the most popular fan fiction for it. It's a YA romance coming of age story. It was very easy to listen to while I was working. It's very great to multitask to, but I just thought it was okay. I've never read Rainbow Rowell before, and I know she was like all the rage on BookTube a while ago, so I thought to pick something up just so I could see why. Do I understand why? No. It could be a victim of not being like my type of book. It could be a victim of me being like too old to be reading this now because, you know, I started college 8 years ago and I finished 4 years ago. But let me talk about why I have these feelings. I thought one of the common complaints was that this did not capture fandom well and what it's like to be obsessed with a fandom. But I thought she did. I actually think it did a pretty good job, especially given Kath's age, because that's definitely how I would act around certain things. Actually, my hyperfixation at the time during college was Harry Potter. Me and my college roommate, that's how we bonded. So I related to her in the sense of being in a fandom and also just being in what is essentially the same fandom. I really liked her family dynamic. It was just her twin sister, and her father. Her and her twin sister had some complicated emotions going on, and I thought the complexity was written really well. And I really liked her friendship with the roommate, whose name I think was Reagan, but I can't remember. I can't be for sure. However, the reason I gave it 3 out of 5 stars is because I have a lot of mixed feelings on how most of the resolutions were handled. But one of those resolutions deals with Kath's mom. Kath has a lot of trauma from her mom leaving them at such a young age. Like, her mom just didn't want to be a mom. She was very, I don't want to say very neglectful, but like, for example, like, she had twins. Not knowing, she had the name Catherine picked out, was surprised with twins, was too lazy to think of a different name. So Kath was named Cather, and her sister's name is Ren. Catherine. So one of those moms, and she left them on 9/11, and that was like a big, there was a lot to take in with that chapter. I have mixed feelings with how that all ended. Just because I liked that Kath was not forced to forgive her mom, but at the same time, the execution of it, I was like I understand why Rainbow Rowell decided to include this in the book, but at the same time, it's like, why? Like, this whole, because this book is long, it was like almost 500 pages. Could have been a little shorter if we didn't have the mom nonsense. Another thing was with her classmate that she would write a story with. I understand the whole point of that was for Kath to learn to stick up for herself and that she can do the thing her professor believes she can do, which is write fiction that has nothing to do with fan fiction. But the execution of it was really weird because, like, yes, I see the point, but at the same time, it also felt like it wasn't needed for this book. Like, it made it feel like this character wasn't needed for the book at all, and Rainbow Rowell could have told the story without him, and she could have made that point using something else that had more to do with what she was already telling us. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. And the love interest. So this has nothing to do with the resolutions. I'm moving on to another point. The love interest. Like, he was cute. Like, I knew right away they were gonna end up together, because at one point in the book, it's like, is she gonna end up with him or the classmate? Knew right away it was gonna be him. And, like, they were cute together, but, like, I feel like, for my personal taste, they got together a little too early. Once they got together, the book became so corny, like disgustingly corny, not even the cute corny, and long. Like, the book wouldn't end. Every time I thought we were coming to an end, there was another chapter. On the plus side, it did make me reminiscent for college, like the dorm life that I don't really want to repeat, but at the same time, kind of felt nostalgic, because like you create certain bonds in college that I feel like you don't make afterwards, and I kind of miss it. I don't miss the schoolwork, but I miss the community of college. But yeah, that's a lot to say about this book. My notes were longer than I thought they'd be. Again, 3 out of 5 stars, moving on. The next book I finished was another audiobook, and that is Hitler Youth: Growing Up in Hitler's Shadow by Susan Campbell Bartoletti. This is a nonfiction book about Hitler Youth of World War II. I was interested in reading this just because the idea of Hitler Youth is so fascinating to me, like convincing millions of children to be these hateful beings, and then, you know, once the war ends and you lose, how do you fix that? But overall, I thought this book was just okay. It didn't have a ton of new information for me. Most of this information I did know because I'm a huge World War II buff. I read a lot about World War II in my free time. I wrote a paper on the denazification programs of Hitler Youth. I had to write that in college, so again, being reminiscent of college over here. But what I did like about this book, rather than giving us a generic essay on Hitler Youth, she actually focused on real life individuals. Some survived World War II, some unfortunately did not. Some of them were hell-bent, hardcore believers of Hitler Youth, or Hitler in general, while some were not. I thought that was a good way of getting different perspectives of how this program hurt a lot of people, because you can argue it, you know, it hurt more than it helped them. Just my other gripe with it as well is that sometimes she would go off topic in order to create context for the Hitler Youth stuff she was talking about, but oftentimes I felt like she went off topic a little bit too long, and I wanted her to go back to talking about Hitler Youth. So overall, I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. Then the last book I read in January is a comic book, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender, North and South, the last book by Gene Luen Yang with art by Gurihiru, because future comics are by other people. Sokka and Katara weren't in the last comic. They went home to the Southern Water Tribe, and they noticed that their village in the Southern Water Tribe is no longer a small, quaint village. It is now a big city, and their dad is the head chieftain. However, problems arise because their dad is getting help from the Northern Water Tribe, which is considered their sister tribe, but a lot of people in the Southern Water Tribe are not very happy with that. The themes of this book are colonialism, tradition, change, and progression. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I like that we're finally able to see more Water Tribe culture. I feel like we learned a lot in the show, but not a lot to my liking. I wanted to learn so much more, and this is like the one comic out of all the ones I've read so far, the one comic that actually focuses on it. Because if you see Legend of Korra, which is the sequel show to Avatar, it's like, how did the Southern Water Tribe go from this to this? And in this comic, we see why that happened. And I like seeing the different tidbits and how they did it too. So these books, if you get these editions on the sides, they'll have notes from the authors themselves. A lot of what's in this book, a lot of the cultural inspiration comes from the Inuit tribes, which I already knew going into this. Like, it is very well known information that the Water Tribes are inspired by the Inuit people and other Native American tribes, but in this comic specifically, the inspiration is very, very obvious. This is definitely one of the best comics. It's the funniest one, especially because we get to see more of Sokka, who's the, you know, the comedic relief of the gang. You feel for everyone in this comic. Like, I obviously feel for Katara because there's too much change happening. She's feeling what Aang feels in the Rift. She's feeling like her culture is kind of veering away. She wants things to go back to normal, but like things, you know, things have to change. They have to progress. But what does progression mean? And is that a good thing? Is there good progression versus bad progression? And she has to come to terms with that. You feel for Sokka, who's the guy who does want to move forward. He does want the Southern Water Tribe to become modernized. But again, what does that mean? And another reason I say, like, you feel for everyone, like, I even felt for the villain in this. Like, yes, I thought he was an extremist and he went too far, but I understood why he got to where he's at, and like, he brought up some good points sometimes. However, I do have a couple gripes with this. I thought the issue was resolved a bit too early. And just like how I feel with the other comics, the third act, the third part is way too fast. It is so rushed with choppy pacing. I don't know what it is with this author where I feel like the first 2 parts are so well done and are paced just fine, and it's the third one that kind of ruins things. But on a happy note, the last couple panels where the gang comes together and has a potluck, real cute. And that is it for this video. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are, or what books have you read in January, and what's your favorite book of the read so far. Okay, and what's your favorite read of the year so far? If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe, y'all know the drill, and without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao tutti.